Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This transcendental vibration by chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare is the sublime method for reviving our Krishna consciousness. As living spiritual soul, we are all originally Krishna conscious entities, but due to our association with matter from time immemorial, our consciousness is now polluted by material atmosphere. In this polluted concept of life, we are all trying to exploit the resources of material nature, but actually we are becoming more and more entangled in our complexities. This illusion is called Maya, our hard struggle for existence, for winning over the stringent laws of material nature. This illusory struggle against the material nature can at once be stopped by revival of our Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is not an artificial imposition on the mind. This consciousness is the original energy of living entity. When we hear the transcendental vibration, this consciousness is revived, and the process is recommended by authorities for this age. By practical experience also, we can perceive that by chanting this Maha Mantra or the great chanting for deliverance, one can at once feel transcendental ecstasy from the spiritual status. When one is factually on the plane of spiritual understanding, surpassing the stages of sense, mind and intelligence, one is situated on transcendental plane. This chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare is directly enacted from the spiritual platform, surpassing all lower status of consciousness, namely sensual, mental and intellectual. There is no need of understanding the language of the mantra, nor there is any need of mental speculation nor any intellectual adjustment for chanting this Mahamantra. It springs automatically from the spiritual platform, and as such, anyone can take part in this transcendental sound vibration without any previous qualification and dance in ecstasy. We have seen it practically. Even a child can take part in the chanting, or even a dog can take part in it. The chanting should be heard from the lips of a pure devotee of the Lord, so that immediate effect can be achieved. As far as possible, chanting from the lips of non-devotee should be avoided, as much as milk touched by the lips of a serpent causes poisonous effect. The word Hara is the form of adoration, the energy of the Lord. Both Krishna and Rama are form of addressing directly the Lord, and they mean the highest pleasure eternal. Hara is the supreme pleasure potency of the Lord. This potency, when addressed as Hare, helps us in reaching the supreme Lord. The material energy, called as Maya, is also one of the multi-potencies of the Lord, as much as side. Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Bihari Chatar Sadasyaman Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavindra ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Sri Radha Krishna Go Gopinath Sam Kund Radha Kund Giridhar ki jai. Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Navadvip Dham ki jai. Swami To Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Ganga Mai ki jai. Jamuna Mai ki jai. Tulasi Devi ki jai. Bhakti Devi ki jai. Swami To Bhaktivinoda ki jai. All glories to the assembled Lord. All glories to the assembled Lord. Thank you very much.
Krishna Prabhu, my humble obeisances. You are welcome for today's class. Nice to see you. How are you doing?
Wonderful, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. So I will put the verse on the screen so we can start, please.
Okay. Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. You can hear my voice?
Yes, Prabhu, very clearly.
Okay, all right. So, reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 8, Text 26. Janmaishvarya Shruta Shribir Edhamana Madapuman Naivarhatya Abhidatum Vai Tvam Akinchana Gocharam. Word for word. Janma, birth. Aishvarya, opulence. Shruta, education. Shribir, by the possession of beauty. Edamana, progressively increasing. Madaha, intoxication. Puman, the human beings. Na, never. Eva, ever. Arhati, deserves. Abhidatum, to address in feeling. Vai, certainly. Tvam, you, akinchana gocharam, one who is approached easily by the materially exhausted man. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation: My Lord, your Lordship can easily be approached but only by those who are materially exhausted. One who is on the path of material progress, trying to improve himself with respectable parentage, great opulence, high education, and bodily beauty, cannot approach you with sincere feeling. Purport: Being materially advanced means taking birth in an aristocratic family and possessing great wealth and education and attractive personal beauty. All materialistic men are mad after possessing all these material opulences, and this is known as the advancement of material civilization. But the result is that by possessing all these material assets, one becomes artificially puffed up, intoxicated by such temporary possessions. Consequently, such materially puffed up persons are incapable of uttering the holy name of the Lord by addressing him feelingly, O Govinda, O Krishna. It is said in the Shastras that by once uttering the holy name of the Lord, the sinner gets rid of a quantity of sins that he is unable to commit. Such is the power of uttering the holy name of the Lord. There is not the least exaggeration in this statement. Actually, the Lord's holy name has such powerful potency, but there is a quality to such utterance also. It depends on the quality of feeling. A helpless man can feelingly utter the holy name of the Lord, whereas a man who utters the same name in great material satisfaction cannot be so sincere. A materially puffed up person may utter the holy name of the Lord occasionally, but he's incapable of uttering the name in quality. Therefore, the four principles of material advancement, namely 1, high parentage, 2, good wealth, 3, high education, and 4, attractive beauty, are, so to speak, disqualifications for progress on the path of spiritual advancement. The material covering of the spirit soul is an external feature, as much as fever is an external feature of the unhealthy body. The general process is to decrease the degree of the fever and not to aggravate it by maltreatment. Sometimes it is seen that spiritually advanced persons become materially impoverished. There is no discouragement. On the other hand, such impoverishment is a good sign as much as the falling of temperature is a good sign. The principle of life should be to decrease the degree of material intoxication, which leads one to be more and more illusioned about the aim of life. Grossly illusioned persons are quite unfit for entrance into the kingdom of God. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatharine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So this is the first time I'm giving an online class. I'm not so accustomed to it. Hopefully I can say something to inspire whoever is listening. Hopefully I can say something to inspire myself. I pray to all the Vaishnavas that they can bless me. Actually, to speak in an assembly of Vaishnavas is like taking water from the Ganga and giving it back to Ganga herself. So hopefully all the devotees can give some blessings so that I may say something pleasing to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This purport is actually really wonderful. It's the prayers of Kunti. And the prayers of Kunti are they're very elevated prayers. Just yesterday, or the previous verse is a very famous verse about how Queen Kunti is asking for more material problems, because these material problems, they're welcome, because as soon as they come, then immediately we're remembering Krishna, we're remembering the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and so the problems are not bad, they're very good. You see, Krishna is remembered especially in the conditioned stage, when we have material exhaustion. When we have too much material opulence, it's a little difficult to be Krishna conscious. Here Kunti Maharani is saying that the having a respectable parentage, great opulence, high education, bodily beauty, these things are not very much appreciated for a Vaishnava, because when one gets these things, then he becomes very quickly intoxicated by these things. And Prabhupada says in the purport very nicely that how he becomes puffed up. And when one becomes puffed up, then he's incapable of uttering the Lord's name feelingly. Feelingly being the main point. The word here in Sanskrit is abhidhatum. Abhidhatum means to address in feeling. This is the main thing. In the purport, Prabhupada speaks about how the name chanted by those who are materially impoverished and the name chanted by those who have so much material opulence is very different, because those with material opulence, they may chant the same sound, Hare Krishna, but Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he used to say Nama Akshara Nama Nahi, which means just the sound Hare and Krishna doesn't necessarily mean it is the names of the Lord. It could just be mundane sound vibration also, because unless devotion is put behind any activity, it cannot attract the attention of Krishna. See, Krishna says Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam, but if you just offer him a water leaf or flower with no devotion, then it's just offering him a water leaf, fruit, or flower. But you offer it with devotion, then that same substance, the same water, the same leaf, the same fruit, same flower, immediately transforms into something spiritual, turns into Mahaprasad. It becomes non-different to Krishna himself. And anyone who comes in contact with this simple water, fruit, leaf, or flower comes in direct contact with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because of the devotee's feeling, feelingly offering this offering with his heart. And so you'll find in Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, a lot of the associates of Lord Chaitanya, they came in low-born families. They came in materially impoverished families. They came in positions that seemed very low. And what you'll find is that although they were born in low-born families, for example, we have Haridas Thakur. Haridas Thakur was born in a low family. At least in India, it was considered low to be born in a Muslim family, and the Brahmanas definitely didn't accept him, didn't regard him. But we see Lord Chaitanya accepted him as Namacharya, as the Acharya of Harinam. He accepted him as the supreme Brahmana. Actually, in Jagannath Puri, when they make an offering to Jagannath, and the first offering that they make to Jagannath, it goes to the Brahmanas. After it's offered to Jagannath, the Brahmanas take the remnants. And Advaita Acharya, when he was there in Jagannath Puri, he would take the offerings that were made to Jagannath and he would first give them to Haridas Thakur. And he would give them to Haridas Thakur, saying he's the topmost Vaishnava, and a Vaishnava is above a Brahmana. And when he did this repeatedly, the caste Brahmins, they became quite upset. They became very agitated. And they said to him, to Advaita Acharya, that this is very wrong. This is not correct thing that you're doing. Where the Brahmanas, he's born in a low-born Mohammedan family. How can you do such a thing? And to that, then there was a test. Advaita Acharya wanted to glorify Haridas Thakur. And it is said a real Brahmana, at least, maybe in the previous ages, but it is said a real Brahmana can start a fire without any external means, without a lighter, without matchbox. He can start a fire with mantras. Actually, some places even there are people even today who can do such a thing. So he got a big block of wood and he called all the Brahmanas forward and he told them, if anyone can start a fire without a lighter, without matches, or without any external means, then I will accept. Then I will accept that I should offer it to you first. And so they came one by one and they tried, but obviously being Kali Yuga, there's actually no real qualified Brahmanas in Kali Yuga. So none of them could start the fire. And then Haridas Thakur came and Advaita Acharya asked him to please, set this tinder block on fire. And Haridas Thakur, being very humble and meek, he said, I can't do such a thing. I just simply chant Hare Krishna. And as soon as he said Hare Krishna, the piece of wood exploded. it just shattered, like a little mini explosion, and immediately caught on fire. And so then all the Brahmanas understood that this is a very exalted personality. This is a Vaishnava. There are many examples. There are examples of personalities like Kolavacha Sridhar. Kolavacha Sridhar was so poor. He had holes in his clothes. He had holes in his roof. Practically, he was living off of bananas. Just the whole banana plant. He was making leaves. He was selling the banana. He was making leaf plates. He was selling the leaf plates. The banana tree is a very wonderful tree because every part of it can be used. And, he was so poor. He had holes in his roof, but still he would keep 50% of all of his earnings for Ganga Puja. And the other 50% he would keep, and 25% he would use, and 25% he would keep for emergencies, just like Rupa Goswami has recommended in Nectar of Devotion. So he was doing this, but you see, because he was, who was he? He was Subal, right? I think he was Subal in his previous lifetime. Yeah, I think so. Maybe if I'm wrong, someone can correct me later on. But because he was Subal Saka, Lord Chaitanya used to come and used to have a relationship with him as very, very friendly, very intimate. And he would come and he would jokingly joke with him, saying that, why are you giving 50% to Ganga? Just give this 50% to me. Anyway, it's from my lotus feet that Ganga comes. And Kolavacha Sridhar would close his ears and he would say, no, what are you saying? Why are you saying such things? And like this, they would have very sweet interactions. And, one day, Lord Chaitanya came to Kolavacha Sridhar and he said, you're not poor. I know you're not poor. You're cheating everyone. You're pretending to be poor, but really you have the greatest wealth. And Kolavacha Sridhar was very confused. And then Lord Chaitanya told him, don't worry. One day I'll reveal to everyone how wealthy you really are, how much opulence you really possess. And obviously, we know he showed him the Sadbhuj form. He showed Kolavacha Sridhar the form of Lord Chaitanya with 6 hands, two blue two holding a flute, two green holding an arrow and a bow, and two golden holding a danda and a kamandalu, a stick and a water pot. And so there are many personalities, so many Ramananda Rai, yesterday was his disappearance day. Ramananda Rai was also born in a low-class Shudra family. It's very interesting, though. His position is considered the highest, the topmost. The chapter of Ramananda Rai Samvad, it is the highest chapter. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur even forbade newcomers from reading the 4th chapter of Adi Lila and the 8th chapter of Madhya Lila. The 8th chapter of Madhya Lila being Ramananda Rai's Samvad, Ramananda Rai's conversation, because it's so elevated. The topics that are discussed there are very, very elevated. They're so high, and it's spoken by a Shudra. And interestingly enough, also he's Arjuna. So in Krishna Lila, Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, but the devotee is so great that in Gaur Lila it switched the other way around, and Arjuna started speaking the highest philosophy to Krishna. Obviously, as Gaudiya Vaishnavas, we also understand that he's Lalita Saki, and he's a very intimate associate of Radharani. Therefore, he's able to speak such high topics. But these examples, they show us that being born in a low position, not having high education, not having bodily beauty, not having respectable parentage, these are not hindrances for bhakti. In fact, they are considered, as the purport said here, they're considered as beneficial. They're considered as even favorable. See, bhakti begins with Shraddha. We understand Shraddha is the first step of Krishna consciousness. The Chaitanya Charitamrita says, Shraddha Shabde Vishwas Sudrida Nishchay Krishna Bhakti Kaile Sarva Karma Kritahai, which means that Shraddha, the word Shraddha, means that you have unflinching faith, that I simply engage in Krishna Bhakti Kaile Sarva Karma Kritahai. I simply engage in Krishna Bhakti, and all of my karmas, all of my obligations will be completely taken care of. This is the beginning of Krishna consciousness. And this Shraddha is required. And what happens when we have high parentage, good wealth, high education, and attractive beauty, then we feel obliged. If you have high parentage, if your parents take care of you very nicely and keep you in a very aristocratic family, then you'll feel more obliged to such a family. If you have a lot of wealth, then you'll feel more obliged to maintain that wealth. If you have high education, then you'll feel more obliged to use that education in a certain material way. And if you have attractive beauty, then you'll feel more obliged to attract the opposite sex, unfortunately. So these things are not very good for Shraddha. They distract our one-pointed, fixed Ananya Bhakti towards Krishna. If you read Bhagavad Gita, throughout the whole Bhagavad Gita, again and again and again, so many questions Arjuna asks, and so many times Krishna's answer is always fixed devotional service. His answer is always Ananya Bhakti. What's that verse? Vyavasikatma buddhi. No, what is it? I don't remember. Vyavasikatma buddhi. Anyway, Ekiha Kuru Nandana. Ekiha, this one-pointed, firm determination. Those who have fixed, firm determination, they're resolute in their mind. They have only Krishna in their purview. They have no other distractions. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur has also said in his Jaiva Dharma, he's explained how Shraddha is a synonym, or is another word for Sharanagati. He says this in Jaiva Dharma. And then he further explains in the Jaiva Dharma that Sharanagati has 6 characteristics. Sharanagati means Anukulyasya Sankalpa, Pratikulyasya Varjanam, Rakshashati Vishvaso, Goptritre Varanam Tatha, Atma Nikshepa Karpanye, Shadvidha Sharanagati. What this verse means is that Sharanagati begins with Anukulyasya Sankalpa and Pratikulyasya Varjanam, accepting things that are favorable for Krishna consciousness and rejecting things that are unfavorable for Krishna consciousness. And, in this purport, Prabhupada very nicely explains that, what does he say here? He says that materially puffed up persons are incapable of uttering the holy name of the Lord by addressing him feelingly, and then he puts in quotation marks, O Govinda, O Krishna. So this is unfavorable. Materially puffed up persons, they're incapable of uttering the holy name of the Lord feelingly due to their material opulence, due to their intoxication, due to all of this wonderful, external material opulence that's coming to them. So this has to be given up for Sharanagati to be placed. And when I say Sharanagati, you can take it as a synonym for Shraddha, for the beginning of Krishna consciousness. Yes. So anukulyasya sankalpa pratikulyasya varjanam. You have to accept things that are favorable for feelingly calling out to Krishna, and you have to reject things that are unfavorable for not feelingly calling out to Krishna. And then what are the other symptoms? Anukulyasya sankalpa pratikulyasya varjanam. Rakshishati vishvaso. You have complete faith that Krishna will protect you no matter what. This is Shraddha. This is Sharanagati. Srivas Thakur, he didn't have a day job. He just simply facilitated the chanting of Hare Krishna. And Lord Chaitanya asked him, like, how are you going to maintain yourself? And we all know he clapped 3 times, right? And he clapped 3 times and he said, well, if nothing comes the first day, then I'll fast. If nothing comes the second day, then I'll fast with my family again. And if nothing comes the third day, then I'll jump into the Ganga and drown myself with my family. Not that he would do that, but this shows that he has so much vishvas, rakshishati vishvaso. He has so much trust in the Supreme Lord's protection, rakshishati vishvaso, that he knows. What does he know? He knows goptritre vananam tata, which means Krishna will give whatever I need. He will always maintain my existence to the perfect amount that I can cultivate pure Krishna consciousness. The environment will always be favorable. It may seem like things are falling apart and maybe life is not going so well. Coronavirus is here, there's a pandemic, and now this is how we have to associate with devotees online. But the environment is always favorable. Krishna is always giving everything we need to the perfect point for us to cultivate Krishna consciousness. It's simply a matter of getting out of the mode of ignorance and trying to recognize Krishna's hand. He's always present. He's in our hearts. He's directing all the workings all around us. Everything that happens specifically for your personal relationship with Krishna to flourish more and more and more. And that is what we need to have a perfect, a complete faith that Krishna is going to give me whatever I need. So he gives all protection. He gives whatever you need, materially, spiritually, he'll nourish you perfectly. And Rakshishati Vishwaso Goptate Varnam Datha Atma Nikshepa Karpanye. Atma Nikshepa. If such a person is giving me all protection, if such a person is giving me whatever I need, then Atma Nikshepa. I should completely surrender my whole soul to such a person. I should completely give myself to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And not that I give myself and then become puffed up. After Atma Nikshepa, the next word is Karpanye. Karpanye means humble, meek. You become very, you recognize yourself as being very, very insignificant. Like Lord Chaitanya says in the Shikshashtakam, he says, I'm just a speck of dust, and you please put me at your lotus feet, my dear Lord. You place me at the corner of your lotus feet, and I will be satisfied. This is Karpanye. These are the 6 symptoms of Sharanagati. And without this, there can be no faith, there can be no Shraddha. And without Shraddha, there can be no Sadhu Sangha. And without Sadhu Sangha, there can be no perfection in Krishna consciousness. We need the association of devotees. But to associate with devotees properly, we need the correct type of Shraddha, which comes from surrendering, to Krishna's, lotus feet. It may seem very difficult. Surrender is not such an easy topic. We're here in this material world due to a lack of surrender. We're not able to, we want to compete with God. This is the complete other end of the spectrum of surrender. This is envy. Envy is the other end of surrender. But Krishna sends his devotees. When we read Madhurya Kadambini, or when we read these books that describes the stages of bhakti, it says Shraddha comes first, and then Sadhu Sangha comes next. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his Jaiva Dharma, he's explained very nicely that yes, it is true that without Shraddha, you cannot associate with devotees. But we're so fallen, we're so downtrodden that we have no Shraddha, and the devotee has to mercifully come and insert Shraddha into us, insert faith, this trust in the process, this trust in chanting of Hare Krishna. And once he does that, then you may get Shraddha, and then you may appreciate him, and you may learn how to associate with such a sadhu. So surrendering directly to Krishna is practically impossible. It's very difficult. Although we're born in Kali Yuga, Kali Yuga is, in reality, it's the lowest of birth. Even if you're born with riches, even if you're born with bodily beauty, actually the most beautiful man or woman or any living creature in this planet, actually we look like frogs compared to the denizens of heaven and the apsaras and then the Gandharvas. You may have a very beautiful voice. I'm here in Vrindavan Dham. I'm part of the 24-hour kirtan, and we have some very nice kirtaniyas in our temple, and they may sound very beautiful to us, but in reality, in Kali Yuga, there's not much we can do with our throats, with our human vocal cords. They're quite insignificant. The demigods, the heavenly Gandharvas, they sing so much minute details. There are notes in between notes that we cannot even recognize. And then in reality, even the demigods and even the Gandharvas, they also sound like frogs compared to the residents of Vaikuntha. In Vaikuntha, in the spiritual world, when they sing, it's something completely different. And even the residents of Vaikuntha, if you compare their singing to the singing of the gopis in Vrindavan, then even the Vaikuntha Vasis might not sound as good anymore. You see, in Vrindavan, the Vrindavan is the zenith of all perfection. It is the highest realm. And there, whatever you find, it just cannot be compared to anything in this material world. So, we may be born in whatever, we may be puffed up with whatever good qualities we have, but even those good qualities are not that good. And so in reality, whatever we offer to Krishna, he might not appreciate.
Hare Krishna. Mr. Pierce and Prabhu's network went down.
Yeah, I can say that also.
Okay, we'll wait for him to come back.
We are also marginal and potential law. The living entities are described as superior energy than matter. When the superior energy is in contact with inferior energy, it becomes an incompatible situation.
Hare
But
Krishna.
in marginal potency,
Right,
is in
Radhesham.
contact with.
Sorry, it's because I'm in Vrindavan Dham. So
Yeah, we understand. Network went down. It's okay.
Where was I? I don't remember what I was speaking about. If someone could remind me.
We're speaking about this beauty and wealth is not, although it's good, but it's not too favorable in devotional service.
Yeah. So the point is that we're very insignificant, and our external quality in performing all kinds of various services may not be so perfect. It may not be so first class, and that will not really attract Krishna because he has the best of the best in the spiritual world. So surrendering onto a person so large in comparison to us seems to be very difficult. Seems to be very he may be very intimidating to approach because of his attractiveness, because of his how do you say, like exquisite, specific ways to enjoy, and his expert servants that are perfectly serving him, you may feel a little intimidated because we have no real capacity to serve. But you see, Sri Guru comes, he comes into our life as a medium, as a via medium, where we can connect to Krishna directly. And surrender to Krishna goes hand in hand with surrender to Sri Guru. As you surrender to Guru, then Krishna becomes much more closer, because the Guru is very close to Krishna. You know, there's a pastime, what to speak of us, living conditioned souls. Even Chitra Sakhi, one of the principles, Ashtasakis, Kaya view of Radharani herself, an expansion, direct expansion of Radharani, non-different to Radharani. Chitra Sakhi is described, her name Chitra literally means a printing or painting, you could even say. You know, that's what the word Chitra means. And she is an expert painter. Out of all the painters of the Supreme Lord, she's known to be the expert painter. Obviously, Radharani is the most expert of everything, but she manifests differently in different forms to accentuate a specific skill. You know, so for example, Chitra is the best of painters, Lalita is the best of dressers, like that. You know, they all have. Tungavidya is the best of musicians. She's expert in all musical capabilities. So anyway, Chitra is a good painter, and she's very much desiring in her heart to paint the face of Krishna, to make nice, beautiful designs on Krishna's face. And so she goes and she asks Purnamasi that if I can please paint Krishna's beautiful face. And Purnamasi, somehow or other, she arranges it, right? And finally, after waiting for many days, she finally comes in front of Krishna to paint his face. And as soon as she sees him, he's so attractive, he's so captivating, he's so mesmerizing that she just loses all of her senses, and she's stunned. She's stuck there. She cannot move. Her hands are completely like a statue, and she doesn't know what to do. And then Krishna, seeing her timid behavior, Chitra is also known to be very soft-hearted. Even the out of the Ashtasakis, they all have different moods. And Lalita Sakhi, for example, is very harsh. She always chastises Krishna. She's very firm. She's very strong. You know, strong personality, very heavy personality. But Chitra is the polar opposite. She's very sweet, very soft, very simple. You know, she won't yell at anyone. She'll just be very sweet and kind of submissive, you could say. So Krishna, seeing that mood of Chitra and seeing how she's stuck, he being the transcendental enjoyer of all rasas, he accentuated it even more and said, "Hey, what are you doing? Come and paint me. You know, I'm not going to sit here all day." And Chitra, she became even more fearful, but somehow she built up the courage to go close to him and try and paint his face. And her hands were shaking. You know, the most expert painter couldn't keep a steady hand. And as she started painting Krishna's face, and immediately started splodging here and there and turning into a mess. You know, and Krishna, seeing that, he pushed her hand away and he said, "You're not qualified to paint me," and he walked away. and poor Chitra Sakhi, she just stood there crying and crying and crying, thinking that, you know, what is the use of me being an expert painter when I couldn't even paint Krishna's face? And so she went crying and crying. She went crying to Purnamasi, and she tells Purnamasi that, you know, I'm known to be an expert painter, but I wasn't able to, you know, I wasn't able to serve Krishna properly. I just made a mess of him, and he got upset and he went away. And so Purnamasi tells to Chitra that, well, you know, you had a fundamental flaw where you tried to serve him without Radharani. So you please go to Radharani and you ask her that you want to serve her Supreme Lord. And actually this is the meaning of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Prabhupada has said that the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra means, "O energy of the Lord, please engage me in your devotional service." What does this mean? This means, "O Radharani, energy of the Lord, please engage me in your devotional service to your Krishna. You know, we don't want Krishna separate to Radharani. We want Krishna with Radharani. We want Lord Chaitanya. We want the combined form of Radha and Krishna. So Chitrasakhi goes and she approaches Radharani, and Radharani becomes extremely overjoyed. She becomes very happy to think that, wow, this person wants to serve my Krishna. So she grabs her by the hand and immediately takes her to Krishna. And this time, because Radharani is also present, Krishna's behaving himself and he's being a little nicer. Also, Krishna's understood that he wanted Chitra to understand that I like to accept service when it comes through Radharani, you know, and then Chitra was able to paint his face very beautifully, most expert way, and he was looking wonderful, and Krishna was happy, and Chitra was happy, and Radharani was happy, and everyone was happy in Vrindavan to see his beautifully painted face. The point of this is that even such great personalities like Chitra herself, they understand that they don't want to serve Krishna without Guru. So we should also have an understanding. Sharanagati begins by accepting what is favorable, rejecting what is unfavorable. But the Guru will tell us this. The spiritual master, the highly advanced devotee who we're taking shelter of, will tell us these things. And if such a person is not available around you, then you can read these wonderful books that the Acharyas have left us. Prabhupada has left all his instructions and his books for us. And at least my personal experience is that when you read these books, he can directly speak to you. He can directly see your condition and tell you exactly what you need. I'm sure many of you have had these experiences also. And you see the sadhu is always present. The pure devotee is always present. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has said that if one thinks that there are no pure devotees present, then he can be considered an atheist, because pure devotees are always present. You see, Guru Tattva is also known as Akhanda Guru Tattva. You might have heard this word Akhanda. In Vrindavan, we're called the 24-hour Akhanda Kirtan. Akhanda means non-stop. So Akhanda Guru Tattva means non-stop Guru Tattva. Srila Prabhupada used to say that never was there a moment in my life that my Guru Maharaj was not with me. You know, if you go to Mayapur, there's the Sri Chaitanya Mat, the original Mat of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, where his Samadhi is there, his full body Samadhi. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Prabhupada's Samadhi is there. And Srila Prabhupada was going there and going to his Samadhi, but some of his god brothers, due to whatever reason, they were having some difficulties, and they were, you know, maybe criticizing him a little bit, saying some things on the platform of god brothers. You know, sometimes there's some fighting. You might have experienced some of your god family. Sometimes there's some clash. So there was some disturbance, and due to this disturbance, Srila Prabhupada simply stopped going there. And he stopped going there, and some of his god brothers started thinking that, why is he not coming to his Guru's Samadhi? And Prabhupada very boldly declared, he said to some of his own disciples in our Mayapur Chandrodaya temple, he said that they are thinking my Guru Maharaj is stuck in the ground, but he is always with me. He's always walked by my side. He was with me in the Jaladuta. He was with me in the streets of New York. He was always been by my side. Also, we see how when Srimati Morari ji, the person who paid for the ticket for Prabhupada to go to America, a very exalted personality. We owe her all credits for doing what she's done. Prabhupada, she told Prabhupada, what did Prabhupada tell her? No. She told Prabhupada that you know, you don't come back until you do something. You do something there, you don't come back. And when Prabhupada heard this, he felt that his spiritual master was speaking to him. He felt that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur himself came through this person and spoke to him directly. So Akhanda Guru Tattva means it's constant, 24 hours a day. Guru is always by your side. We simply have to wake up. We simply have to realize that Guru is always with us. And this can happen. This can happen by chanting feelingly. So you see, Guru gives us Krishna, and Krishna gives us Guru, and then Guru gives us Krishna again. The Guru will teach us how to chant feelingly. And as you chant feelingly, more and more you'll realize that within this holy name, everything is present. Even my Guru is present, my relationship with my Guru, my relationship with Krishna. All of these things are present. Therefore, in Vrindavan, if any of you ever get an opportunity to ever come here, then you please join in our 24-hour kirtan. This is the Yuga Dharma. It is the means and the end. This is the process that Lord Chaitanya has come to give. And by performing this chanting of Hare Krishna here, Prabhupada said that one can chant one utterance of the holy name. And by this one utterance, you can finish all your sinful activities even more than you can commit. And this is not even Shuddhanam. This is something closer to Namabas. You know, Namabas, I think all of you follow. Namabas can remove material anxieties, material happiness, material distress. It can take you to the platform of Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma. That's the quality of Namabas. What to speak of Shuddhanam? Shuddhanam can implant Prema Bhakti into your heart. This is the one utterance of Shuddhanam can give you your eternal identity with Krishna, can give you your eternal spiritual relationship with Krishna. And this is what we should aspire for. This is what we should aim for, to get to this platform of chanting Shuddhanam. And Sri Vrindavan Dham is a wonderful place to try and get there as soon as possible. Any activity performed here is multiplied 1,000 times. Any activity performed here during special times like Chaturmasya, Kartik, Purushottam Mas is multiplied many fold. Kartik is multiplied 1,000,000 times. One name of Krishna uttered here is 1,000,000 names of Krishna anywhere else in West Africa or wherever. And Purushottam Mas is even more multiplied. It's 16 billion times. So we should come to Sri Vrindavan Dham as much as we can, or Mayapur Dham also. It's there. They are non-different. These two places, Prabhupada wanted his temples there so that devotees from all over the world can come. They can come and take shelter of the Dham. The Dham is where Krishna resides. And if we chant Shuddhanam here, if we chant here, we can make. Actually, if you chant Shuddhanam, then the place where you are also turns into a dham. But it may be difficult. It may be difficult to do in the initial stages. So we take shelter of the physical dham. Prabhupada has created embassies all over the world. We have ISKCON centers. We have temples with deities. So where these temples are, these places are non-different to Vrindavan Dham. But at the same time, an embassy has its walls, and as soon as you leave the embassy, when you're in the embassy, they consider you to be in that country. But when you leave the embassy, you're not in the country anymore. But if you come to Sri Vrindavan Dham, then it's the actual place. It's a little different to the embassy, although it's not different to the embassy. That's our philosophy, right? Achintya Beda, Beda Tattva. So, these are the things that we want to get to. We want to establish our relationship with Krishna. And the holy name has such powerful potencies that if we simply it depends on the quality of our feeling, of our helpless cry out to Krishna, just like a child that's lost its mother. Prabhupada says like this, just like a child crying out to its mother. If we chant Hare Krishna in this way, the potency of Harinam is very potent. And to chant Hare Krishna in this way, like a child who's lost its mother, we'll have to shed a lot of ego, which comes from high parentage, good education, great opulence, bodily beauty. So therefore, Queen Kunti here is explaining nicely that we don't want such things. Na dhanam, na janam, na sundarim, kavitam va jagadisha kamari, mama janmani janmanishware, bhavatad bhakti raitu kitvai. We don't want all these opulences. We don't want followers. We don't want beautiful, partners and beautiful bodies. And this is not what we want. We want bhakti. And bhakti can be given by Guru. Akhanda Guru is always with us. So I think I'll stop speaking here, and maybe if anyone has anything to say, if anyone has anything to add or subtract, or if there are any questions, then
thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much for a nice class, very enlivening. We have some questions. First from our Duksaja Prabhu.
Just a second, I had to change my. I went on my phone, but the thing is, I only have 2% battery, so I could drop out at any moment. So, while we're at it, you might as well look at the deities here. This is Ainur Prabhu's personal deities. Nitai Sachisuta.
Okay.
Jai. I'm just going to charge the phone.
Thank you.
All right. Now I'm plugged in. We can have questions.
Okay. Adosaja, you have the floor. Okay, then we take someone else. Sarika Prabhu, please.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
First, let me express my appreciation for your wonderful class. Such nice narrations and pastime shared. So very lively. Not really a question. I just wanted to share while you were giving narrating the pastimes of Kuladesh Sridhara, you were trying to recall his name in Krishna Lila. Actually, it was one of the 12 Gopas, friends of Krishna. His name in that Lila is Kusuma Savat Saki. It's one of the 12
really?
Kusuma Sava. Yeah, Saki.
Could you say that name again one more time? I didn't catch it.
Kusuma Sava. I can put it on the chat. I can put the name on the chat. So Kusuma Sava.
I realized while I was speaking that Subal Saka was Gauridas Pandit. So
Yeah.
Jai. Thank you, Prabhu. Yeah. Nice to remember them.
Prabhu. So I have one question, then we go to Sahadev Prabhu. In the purports translation, Prabhupada is talking about the Lord is easily approached by only those who are materially exhausted. One who is on the path of material progress, trying to improve himself with respectful parentage, good opulence. Okay, it's difficult for him. So my question is, the scripture says that one who does not attain perfection in this lifetime, in his Bhakti Yoga, can in his next life took birth in the family of aristocratic family, high education, good wealth or beauty. And here he's saying these things are contradictory to Bhakti. So why did the previous Bhakti put one in a situation where he can't be able to attain perfection?
Yeah, it's a very, very wonderful point. I was actually also thinking of this, just before I logged on, I was reading the verse and I was wondering the same point, that when you don't finish Bhakti, you take birth in an aristocratic family, and it also says a wealthy family, right? And both of these things are mentioned by Mother Kunti, that they're not favorable. But you see, actually, you'll find in Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, some personalities came in this low, impoverished state, and some personalities were also very highly elevated. Like you have Pundarik Vidyanidhi, you have the king of Puri. I forget his name. What is his name? Do you remember his name? Anyway, I'm forgetting now. Prataparudra, King Prataparudra. Yeah. So you have these great exalted souls who are also, they have high parentage. King Prataparudra he's a king. He has all kinds of wealth. He has all kinds of education. The kings in those times, they used to study many different things before you become qualified to be a king. But when you're a devotee, then you get a birth. Generally, in a devotee family, you get a birth. It may be in a better position, but most of the time you'll find, like within devotee families, at least from what I've seen, there's one nice devotee boy here. He's born in a rich family. He's born in a devotee family, and they're like high caste Brahmins or whatnot. But he, because he grew up in it, from what I'm seeing, he's kind of like had enough of it. So automatically he just wants to be Krishna conscious, because he lived at the highest peak of material existence all his life, and he's kind of bored of it now, and there's nothing more to be had. So naturally his mind is going to something higher. But it's a little different. It would be nice to ask this question to someone a little bit more self-realized, unlike me. But I was thinking of the same thing. I was thinking of the same point. How it's interesting.
Thank you, Prabhu. So we take back now to our Duk Saja back. I think he's ready now. Unmute your mic.
Hare Krishna. I can't really hear.
Your voice is very low. put your voice in the mic or use earphone.
Krishna Prabhuji.
Jai Jai.
I have appreciated your class. Prabhu, I want to, before my question, I want to address the administrator of this
Your
group.
question, please. We are on air. Ask your question.
Okay. Then I want to know about the speaker of today. We don't know him. We don't know him, and we want to know his story about how he made the Hare Krishna movement. He's living in just how he made the Hare Krishna movement still today, how he's performing devotional service.
You want to know personally about me?
Yes.
Well, that won't do you very good, but if you insist, I could just very quickly let you know. I joined the movement in Australia. I met devotees in Australia, and I read Srila Prabhupada's books. And you know the way Prabhupada's books are. They're just so perfect. They're just all encompassing, and they just completely destroy whatever conception you had previously to reading them. At least if you're a little bit sensible, And so I read Srila Prabhupada's books, and I joined the devotees and started chanting Hare Krishna. And I owe a lot of my presence in the Krishna consciousness movement to Aindra Prabhu, because he taught us that we should go out and do Harinam. So I used to go out with devotees, do Harinam on the streets, and for hours and hours, we would go out every day as much as possible. And the experiences you have when you chant on the street, you can really feel the presence of Lord Chaitanya. And it's those experiences that actually keep you in Krishna consciousness. And if you want a fast ticket to Vrindavan, then perform Harinam Sankirtan out on the streets for the benefit of others. And if you do that, very quickly Krishna will call you to Sri Vrindavan Dham. At least this is my experience. And I used to do this in Australia. I did some Harinam with a wonderful devotee named Ram Roy Prabhu in New York. I was doing Kirtan with him over there. So my Krishna consciousness began once I started doing Harinam out on the streets with the devotees. Distribution of books also side by side. These two things are our bread and butter. They're our main source of inspiration. This is how the movement started. This is how the movement will maintain itself. And this is how the movement will grow in the future. If we simply stick to these two things. Also prasad distribution. Yes, that is also very nice. But somehow or other, now I'm here in Vrindavan. I'm staying in the 24-hour Kirtan. I'm trying to make some kind of meager attempt to make some spiritual advancement so that I can be of some use to Prabhupada's movement. We have the mission of Srila Prabhupada that we have to, give our lives to. And for that, we need to be a little able-minded. We need to be a little fit, spiritually fit. So coming to Vrindavan, staying in Vrindavan is a very good place to be spiritually fit. So, hearing about me is not going to help your spiritual life very much because I'm not a very good devotee.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Then that's it.
Thank you so much. We get to the second question from Sahadev Prabhu, please.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Shri Pavan Nitai Chandra Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for the class. You addressed many very important issues. For example, you were saying that the Guru Tattva can never be stopped. In other words, there are some crazy devotees who think we don't have pure devotees in ISKCON, so they bloop, So you did address that very beautifully. Thank you. My question is actually similar to Kusha Prabhu's question. And you answered it, but I'm just trying to ask to see if you can add a little bit more to your answer to him, in the sense that the prayers Mother Kunti is praying here, that all these material things are hindrances to spiritual life. You did mention in the class that the beauty we see today is nowhere compared to the beauty of those in the previous ages. It's nowhere comparable to the denizens of the heavens, to the Vaikuntha, and then to Krishna Loka. So as you perform religious, pious activities, these things increase. So if someone will have beautiful, attractive body and it's going to be hindrance to him or her, then why would Krishna or nature give such thing to somebody who was unsuccessful in attaining Krishna in the previous life? So I'm thinking that it is the way that we use these things that either help or distract our approach to Krishna. If you would like to shed more light on that. Hare Krishna.
Well, you see, even our Srila Prabhupada was a very well-educated man, and he was born in a wonderful Brahmin family. And because of him being born in that family, he gives all credit to his father, no? In Krishna book, when you read Krishna book, he offers Krishna book to Gaur Mohan De, my beloved father. And you can see how in his life, you know, although he's a Nitya Siddha coming from the spiritual world, but still for showing example, Acharya, one who's teaching by example, he showed how him being born in that nice family, nice Brahmin family, and maybe they were not so rich, but he had good education, he was a pharmacist, and he had all of these things. And he was a businessman for quite some time. He was running a business. And you can see how all these external qualities were used so well in making the movement what it is today. You know, Prabhupada was a businessman. He knew how to run a business. So Vaisheshika Prabhu has written a wonderful book called Our Family Business, being book distribution. And so, you know, because of Prabhupada being a businessman, he had some street smarts. He knew how to work things in the world, and he was able to use that, right? You know, ultimately you could say one man's food is another man's poison. Everyone is differently situated, and Krishna will see from case to case what each devotee would need. You know, what's his name? Upabarhana. You know Upabarhana? He was a demigod, right? He was not a demigod. He was a Gandharva. He was a beautiful singer, but he was a little lusty, and he was, you know, a little bit of a sense enjoyer. And so, but still, he became Narad Muni. In his next life, Krishna gave him a birth, being born in a low class family, where he took the remnants of the sadhus and he heard the Krishna Katha of the sadhus, and then in his you know, he had direct experience of Krishna coming to him, and then later on we all know he became Narad Muni. So it's like case to case. I guess it's very dynamic, and Krishna being a person, he'll see what's best for us. We can be assured that our Krishna consciousness is not going to get checked. Wherever we leave it is going to pick up from there. And Krishna will give us specific births to remove anarthas. Everything that he does is to get rid of our anarthas, you know. We have to face our anarthas, and he'll make certain situations. So you'll be put into a variety of situations according to where you were born or what your service is or whatever. And Krishna's like working all these things to get us closer to him as quick as possible. So what I would say, like, to conclude, is yeah, one man's food is another man's poison. Someone like Prabhupada, obviously him having the education, him having nice family was very favorable. Coming back to the same point of Sharanagati, Sankalpa, Patikulyasya Varjanam. We can use high family, we can use money, right? Prabhupada, they showed a picture of a Mayavad guru pushing away a stash of money. He was like, you know, like turning his face away. And they showed this picture to Srila Prabhupada, like they showed Prabhupada, look at this sannyasi, he's so renounced from money. And Prabhupada replied, saying that, well, if they take that picture with me, I will be hugging that stash of money. Because he said, I know how to employ it in Krishna's service. Everything belongs to Krishna. Everything belongs to Krishna. So it's simply a matter of Krishna consciousness. When you employ everything in Krishna's service, then all of these unfavorable things can also be favorable. You know, we have unfavorable anarthas, but if we can recognize them, if we recognize our anarthas, then suddenly they become favorable to calling out to the Lord feelingly. So immediately we may be having some unfavorable anarthas. We can turn them into favorable anarthas by calling out to Krishna, by saying, "Oh my Lord, I have such horrible things in my heart." Although it's unfavorable, now you've flipped it around and you've made it favorable, you know. So yeah, I guess Krishna knows what he's doing, and we just have to have unflinching faith in him and see what happens. Go for the ride.
Thank you, Prabhu. We have another question from Saleka Prabhu. Saleka, please.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Mr. Prabhu, for the wonderful way you answered those last two questions. I was just going to actually ask the question, but maybe I should just share. Those questions asked by Kusha Prabhu, actually, Prabhupada actually dealt with the subject matter in the same text of Bhagavad Gita chapter 6, text 41 and 42, where he explained that actually there are two classes of unsuccessful yogi. And he explained that the first unsuccessful yogi is one after practicing for a short period of time, is such an unsuccessful yogi that goes to the higher planet where there is favorable condition, and after that, it takes birth in a pious, wealthy, rich family. And then he said in the next verse that for unsuccessful yogi, after a long period of time, it takes his birth in a family of transcendentalists. Okay. So Prabhupada actually clarified it. So sometimes it looks as if probably having practiced devotion service, getting to a particular level of advancement in devotion service, one can get disadvantage by getting this opulence. In essence, whatever it is there, material opulence, just like you rightly explained, is all Krishna's energy and they can be used in Krishna's service. But our ability to use them depends on our level of advancement in our previous birth or in our previous practice of Krishna consciousness. So I think that takes care of that. But my question now, I was just trying to share based on these last two questions.
Yeah, nice.
But my question is this, that I've seen that so many devotees, you mentioned something very nicely when you were answering Adokshita Prabhu, party devotees in Vrindavan, 24 hours Kirtan. I've seen this going on so many years since Prabhupada established that process of Kirtan. Now, my question is that how can one be in Vrindavan in association of these elevated devotees, having all the facilities of devotional service, then it still falls down in Krishna consciousness?
Vrindavan is a state of consciousness, no? Vrindavan is a state of consciousness. There's also a covering of Maya here. It's not that, you simply catch a plane and come to Vrindavan, all your problems in life are solved. It's not so cheap, Krishna consciousness. We have to kind of work for it. And we still have our mind, we still have our anarthas, we still have all these problems. And if you don't take association of devotees properly, and just like Vrindavan is multiplied 1,000 times, but everything's multiplied 1,000 times. You commit offenses here, it's multiplied 1,000 times. If you commit offenses towards the deities, towards the name, towards the dham, towards the devotees, specifically towards the devotees, then very quickly you're gone, you just vanish from Vrindavan. You can see, if you stay here for some years, you'll see people come here, and initially they're very, utsahamai, they have so much enthusiasm, initial enthusiasm, and it's the dham, so the dham opens up to them, but after some time they become a little complacent, their mind kind of takes over, and then they become a little lazy, then they're not engaged so properly. And then after that, the mentality becomes a little critical, then starts becoming a little offensive, and then they just go. And so even in our 24-hour kirtan, I've seen a few devotees, they came, and just in the span of 2 years, they come, and then unfortunately, due to whatever reasonings, they become a little offensive, a little critical, and then they're just gone. Radharani just takes them out. Like, really, you just never see them again. Hopefully they're doing okay.
ultimately, you know, whatever you do in Krishna consciousness is never lost. And especially in the Dham, it's never going to be lost. But you have to be careful in Vrindavan Dham. Therefore, in Kali Yuga, actually, Mayapur Dham is more recommended, even more so than Vrindavan. In Kali Yuga, Mayapur is opening up like a lotus and Vrindavan is closing. We can see that actually. If you come to Vrindavan, every time you come here, you see more buildings, you see more concrete. It's a concrete jungle. Where's the real forest of Vrindavan gone? You know, it's covering. It's becoming more and more covered. Whereas in Mayapur, you go to Mayapur, we have such a beautiful big temple of Vedic planetarium opening up. Everything is becoming flourishing and becoming more and more prominent. Because in Kali Yuga, it's Lord Chaitanya's age, and he knows that the mentality can be a little offensive. So in Mayapur Dham, the offenses are not considered because of the presence of the Panchatattva, the presence of Nityananda, Lord Chaitanya. So yeah, that's why it happens. It's only due to offenses. When you start Krishna consciousness, there's no stopping it. There's nothing that can stop Krishna consciousness. It's such a powerful thing. The only thing that can stop Krishna consciousness is the offenses that you consider. There are 4 types of offenses: Dham Aparad, Nam Aparad, Seva Aparad, and the worst one, Vaishnava Aparad. So we have to be careful. We have to recognize what they are and avoid them as much as possible. Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhu. We have a question again from Sahadev, Prabhu.
Thank you again, Prabhuji. You're such a very humble and sincere devotee.
Oh, I don't know about that, but
well, no, that's what I'm feeling. Well, Prabhuji, my question has to do with offenses. You know, as aspiring devotees, we all warned seriously against committing offenses, and we know how dangerous that could be.
Yeah.
And as such, even though we belong to this precious movement, sometimes you find a devotee doing something that is improper, especially might be a senior devotee to you.
Yeah.
And how do you approach it? Because you're thinking that by you approaching this devotee and telling him or asking him, no matter how submissive the approach is, you might be committing offenses. And this senior devotee may even be telling you you're committing offenses. So how then do we try to correct things that are not being done right? Because we are human beings. We live in this terrible age of Kali. We're all hypocritical. So there may come a point in time somebody may inadvertently err, and somebody will have to tell him or her. So how do we do that? How do we do that without committing offenses to such, especially if the devotee is senior to you?
Well, firstly, also you have to understand Kalir Dosha Nidhe Rajan. Right? This Kali Yuga is in an ocean of faults. Kalir Dosha Nidhi, it's an ocean of faults. Hasti Eka Mahan Gunat. There's one good quality in Kali Yuga. Kirtana Deva Krishnasya Mukta Sangha Param Rajit. The only good quality in Kali Yuga is Krishna Kirtan. And this, by performing this Krishna Kirtan, Mukta Sangha Param Rajit, it takes you to the supreme abode of Raja, Rajit, right? That's something that you should always keep in mind. So there's always going to be faults. And if you want to find faults, you can get lost in an ocean of them in Kali Yuga. That's Kali Yuga's specific quality, to get lost in an ocean of faults. It's very, very easy to find faults. You can really, one after another, find fault after fault. But you have to see your position. You have to see, Narad Muni says to Dhruva Maharaj that all the problems in this world arise due to people not knowing how to treat their seniors, juniors, and equals. To seniors, you have to show respect. To equals, you have to make friendships, you know, and have nice equal dealings, not competitive dealings. And to juniors, you have to show compassion. And Narad Muni says what normally happens is that juniors are exploited, seniors one is envious of, and equals one is competitive with. And these are the root cause of all the problems in the world. This is what Narad Muni says. And so you have to see if he's a senior devotee, and is probably best that you not directly tell him something, but rather you find someone who is more senior than him and you may voice the opinion. Also, you have to understand that our senses are conditioned. So maybe we're wrong. Maybe we're seeing something that cannot be understood. We're seeing with flawed vision. But you may speak to someone who's even more senior than this senior devotee, and you may ask him that he's done such a thing. Maybe, it is not proper for one to go up to a senior devotee and accuse him of doing something wrong. Or you may even go to that senior devotee, but you should go with a humble attitude. You should go with a submissive attitude, saying that, hey, dear Prabhu, you did such and such thing, and it was a little bewildering for me. Can you explain it to me? And maybe he'll explain it to you, and maybe you'll see another angle of Krishna consciousness of why he did such a thing. Prabhupada crossed the oceans. A sannyasi is not supposed to cross the ocean. So, the smart sannyasis, they may say like, oh, what is this? But if you didn't cross the oceans, we wouldn't be sitting here chanting Hare Krishna today. So sometimes it's Kali Yuga after all. It may be that the senior devotee is not much of a senior devotee, and maybe he is at fault, and he might get angry, and he'll tell you, who are you to, even though you're going with a submissive mood. So then, what can we do? It's Kali Yuga. It's a very tough situation. But if you're absorbed in your bhajan, if you're absorbed in the one good quality of Kali Yuga, Asti Ekam Mahan Gunat, then you'll find that in reality there's no problem. You see, Prahlad Maharaj was given so much trouble by his senior, right? His father is a senior. He was given so much trouble. His father is trying to kill him. He's trying to cut his head off. I don't know how much more trouble you can get with than that. And he was undisturbed. Why? Because of his Ekantika Bhajan, his fixed devotion unto Krishna, knowing that doesn't matter, Krishna's gonna protect me no matter what. And he saw, even Hiranyakashipu is no ordinary demon. He's Jai. He's Jai himself directly. And Jai is a devotee, and he's just come to play a role. And there's one very interesting point that is a little bit off topic, but it's kind of nice. I might as well just say it. I hope I'm not going over time. When Hiranyakashipu was on the lap of Nrsingadev, he immediately remembered everything. What is it? What is that verse that Krishna gives you remembrance and forgetfulness? Bhagavad Gita. I'm not remembering right now. Anyway, Krishna gives you all remembrance and forgetfulness. So immediately,
10:15.
yeah,
10:15.
10:15. So exactly. So immediately Hiranyakashipu remembered who he is. As soon as he came on the lap of Nrsingadev, and just as he was about to be killed, he looked at Prahlad Maharaj, and Prahlad Maharaj had a beautiful garland to offer. And Hiranyakashipu was thinking that, wow, like such a nice devotee. I gave him so much trouble all my life, and now he's offering such a beautiful garland to my Lord. And Hiranyakashipu was thinking that I don't have anything to offer to you. I just offered you my envious remarks and my so many horrible things, and my dear Lord, I have nothing to offer to you now. And Nrsingadev then, hearing this prayer of Jai, right, of Hiranyakashipu, but in reality he's Jai, he said that I'll accept something from you which no one will forget. Everyone will remember this. They may forget Prahlad Maharaj's garland, but they will not forget this. And he ripped open his chest and wore his intestines, right, as a garland, as an offering. And Prabhupada says in those purports of the 7th canto, 8th chapter, he says how the Lord became even more beautiful with the drops of blood sprinkled on his face and the garland of intestines around him. He had looked like a lion who had just defeated an elephant, in victory. And so, anyway, it's a bit of a side point. But if you see in this way, there's no problem. There's actually no problem if you have Ekantika Bhajan, if you have this fixed focus on Harinam, on Krishna Kirtan, Kirtanadeva Krishnasya, then Mukta Sangha Paramrajit, then you'll be above all the tribulations of this material world. And you have to see your position. Sometimes if you're in a management position, then you have to correct. What can you do? This is now your service. Within an institution, we have to keep some order and balance. We can't just let everything go wherever it has to go, you know. So if you're in a position of management, if you're in a position of being someone's spiritual master, then you have to say something. But if you're not in such a position, then in reality, you should just be absorbed in your bhajan and not worry so much. If this person is someone close to you, then as a friend, you could, caring for this person, you could go and humbly fold your hands and ask him in a humble way that, dear sir, you did such and such thing. It really bewildered me. But there should be some etiquette, not that you just go blazing in and say, hey, you're wrong. I've read this in Prabhupada's books. You're a total wrong rascal. You know, don't do that. That will not help your Krishna consciousness. You have to see the relationship. And again, you know, person to person, it may be a different situation, different circumstance. You can't really put a blanket rule for it all. But yeah, that's what I would say, you know, just, yeah.
Thank you, Prabhu. I have one controversial question based on this opulence and wealth and beauty. So as devotees, when we want to get married, we shouldn't look for beautiful girls. We should look for blind women and ugly women, because beauty is detrimental to bhakti.
Well, yes. It actually says that, no? What is it? A beautiful wife, irresponsible son, a mother who married twice. These things are enemies. So yes, beautiful women, according to Srimad Bhagavatam, is enemy. I mean, don't go looking for an ugly woman just because of this, you know.
Okay, so because Prabhupada said every woman needs protection, 3 stages: one from the father, second from the husband, third from the first son, the elderly sons. So when the beauty ones don't get a husband, because devotees are so renounced, they want to follow scripture, who give them protection? Because they're too beautiful.
You know, Prabhu, I don't think that's going to happen. Devotees are always going to get married. They're the beautiful ones also. I don't think they have to worry about it too much. Yeah. Prabhupada actually said that all brahmacharis should remain brahmachari and all brahmacharinis should get married, right? So Ayendra Prabhu used to say to this, he used to say that this means all the women should get married to Krishna. So anyway, even if they don't get a husband, let's say hypothetically the beautiful ones don't get a husband, they can just take shelter of Harinam. They can just take shelter of Krishna. If it's in their karma to not get a husband, then they can just cry to Krishna, pray to Katyayani Devi for Krishna to become their husband. This is a wonderful thing too.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much for your wonderful class.
Jai, Jai, Jai.
Prabhu Ganga, you have something to say? No hands up.
I'm filled with gratitude to you, Prabhuji. Thank you very much. You are just radiating the ambience of Vrindavan. Thank you very much.
All glories to Srila Prabhupada. No, he gave us everything. He gave us everything.
So we ask, in the absence of no more questions, we ask devotees to unmute yourselves. Let's chant Hare Krishna for Prabhu for coming to this platform. We expect to see him again next month.
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Krishna,
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 Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare
Hare Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much for coming, Prabhu.
Jai Jai, Hare Krishna.
Sincere devote. No other means, therefore, of spiritual realization is as effective in this age as chanting the Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama.